is ditch Mitch, 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 ditch Mitch. All right, so if you're feeling a little cold, you just do that and think about Mitch McConnell and you'll get warmed up. So, my mama always said you ain't got to be long to be strong. So I left this one for last. I heard he was bringing a barn-banging speech to you tonight. His name is Mike Breuer, my friend, and his lovely wife Lynn sitting right there. And let me tell you a little bit about Mike, just so you know who's speaking to you. He's a farmer, yes, they grow asparagus. He's an educator, a former newspaper editor in Lincoln County. He's also a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel. Thank you for your service, Mike. Thank you so much. He is going to bring it on. So I'd like to bring my friend from Chicken Bristol, Kentucky, all the way to Louisville, Mike Breuer.
And that is a fact. My wife and I are farmers in Chicken Bristol, Kentucky, and we are so proud to be with you, just like we are proud to be with you every time that you've got the courage and the conviction to stand up for what is right. And if I have a hard time talking tonight, it's not because it's cold, my face is frozen, but I have been smiling solidly for the last 1 hour, listening to these people speak and looking at your beautiful faces. Now we're here tonight because we got to send a message. And though tomorrow, I'm very, very confident in what is going to happen in the House of Representatives. They will vote to impeach Donald Trump. But then they're going to send articles of impeachment to the Senate. And so our message, my message tonight, is not to the House of Representatives. We know what they're going to do tomorrow, but to Senator Mitch McConnell and the Republican-led Senate. So, let's hear it. Do your job. Now we've tried to send messages before. Last winter, we marched for women's equality and protection from violence. Did Mitch McConnell listen then? No! Back in August, we stood on his step here in Louisville and we demand he takes action against gun violence. Was he listening to us then? No! Over the summer, we celebrated with pride the advancements that our LGBTQ brothers and sisters have made in the pursuit of equality. But do you think Mitch McConnell was listening? No! And just 2 months ago, we sang and we prayed with the Poor People's Campaign as they continued their slow march for social and racial equality across this country. But do you think Mitch McConnell was listening? No! Well, they need to start listening now, because the message is very, very clear. And it's a point that it's mind-boggling that we need to be making. And I'll tell you why. Because the message that no man is above the law and that we are all equal in the eyes of the law was so fundamental to the foundation of our country that the founding fathers called it self-evident. Now, the President of the United States stands accused of using his office and your tax dollars to bully a courageous ally, Ukraine, standing against the violence and corruption of the Russian Republic for his own gain. and what his Republican enablers would want you to believe, that it was not for his political gain, but because he has a very, very keen interest in corruption. They could have a point. They could have a point. Let's go over the details. Last year, Donald Trump was forced to pay $25 million back to the poor students that he bilked out of their hard-earned money in the phony baloney Trump University. Just this year, the President of the United States was forced to pay $2 million in fines and penalties for using a charity in his own name as a slush fund for his political campaign and for his failing businesses, instead of using it for cancer patients and veterans like he claimed. This is the man who employs undocumented workers in his resorts and casinos while tearing apart migrant families at our southern border and caging their children. And finally, this is the man who proudly brags about sexually assaulting women and getting away from it because of his power and his prestige. So I think I'm starting to agree with some of the Republicans. The president does have a keen interest in corruption, just not exactly the way they mean. Excuse me. You know, I always believed in the promise of Dr. King that the arc of history bends towards justice. That's right. But when Dr. King told us those words, quoted that the old biblical phrase about the course of history bending towards justice, he was not telling us to stand idle. He was not telling us to sit and wait for better days. He was telling us to stand and march and show up every time we need to send a message to our government that no man is above the law. Now, a lot of people in this country are not happy with this process. In fact, they're threatening civil war. We've got self-described patriots who are threatening civil war in this country. We have got overzealous religious leaders who are threatening civil war in this country. We have a United States congressman from the state of Kentucky who is using racist dog whistles, code words for civil war and correspondence on social media with his followers. Well, my friends, let me tell you something about civil war. Other than our friends at the Somali Center, a couple miles away from here, there's very few of us who've seen civil war. But let me tell you what it looks like. Very, very first, the poor and the dispossessed are driven off or killed. And then groups, first large groups, then they devolve into small groups, arm themselves and begin fighting. They destroy their cities and they tear up their infrastructure until there's nothing left.
Not my country!
And when the fighting fizzles out, all that is left are the widows and the orphans to pick over the carcasses of once great cities at the hands and terror of armed gangs. This is what they are threatening us with if we impeach and remove Donald Trump. Well, I'll tell you what, their time is running out because they are so wrong. And we're sending a clear message to Mitch McConnell and the Senate. They need to do their job, and that no one is above the law. Now, they've ignored us before. They've ignored us before about guns, about violence, about immigration. But they can't ignore this. They cannot ignore this because the clock is winding down. The arc of history very, very quickly is bending towards November 3rd, 2020. When you will not only be able to exercise your right to speak, but your right to vote and vote out a leadership in the Senate that refuses to do their jobs and protect a corrupt president. My friends, until that day, we will continue to assemble peacefully. We will continue to let our voices be heard. We will comfort each other in times of darkness, but we will never, ever stop sending a message to Washington, D.C. through our voice, and ultimately through our voice, that this is the United States of America, and no man is above the law. Thank you, my friends. Thank you, Kimberly.
Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Impeach Trump! Give me an I! Give me an M! Give me a P! Give me an E! Give me an A! Now how you spell that? Give me a C! Give me an H! What are we going to do to Donald Trump tomorrow? That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say I love you. We love you. I got to give some shout outs because you need to know who put this together, okay? First of all, Miss Stephanie Love. Miss Patty Pyatt. Patty. Where are you, Patty? State director that got this together, spent her time to come to Louisville, Kentucky to help us. How about Miss Sharon Fleck, chairwoman of Indivisible Kentucky? Where are you, Sharon? Miss Betsy Foster. Miss Ariana Velasquez. And our speakers, every last one of them, I felt like I went to the church of democracy tonight. If everybody could, please, this is important, leave your signs here. We're trying to be green, okay? And reuse so we can save the planet, all right? And then second of all the pictures you took tonight, please use hashtag Impeachment Eve and also hashtag No One Above the Law. Because what is it? No one is above the law. Everybody be safe and good night. Thank you.
Moscow Mitch must go.
You don't mind.